And I remember how I felt when I got the very first message in my DM from someone with kidney disease. And I was so happy. And at that moment, I felt that whatever messaging I was delivering on my page was seen and heard. And Charlene, I know that one thing you mention all the time is that the messaging is the key for whatever content you're posting. And that's so true.
Hi, I'm Charlene Oy, dietitian turned business and marketing coach, and you're listening to the Nutrition Business Show. I've been a dietitian for over a decade, generated millions online, and we've helped thousands of health professionals. So if you're looking for a smarter way to grow your nutrition practice and create online programs to scale your business more sustainably, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to episode 5 of the Nutrition Business Show. Now, in today's episode, I've brought on Jing Xie, a renal dietitian who's an absolute rockstar client of mine in the Momentum Club. Jing has a really inspiring story, and I've witnessed her to go from being a complete novice with no business when she first came to us. She didn't have a practice system set up, no clients, and absolutely no idea how to use Instagram at all, to flourishing into a confident online dietitian today. Jing is so deeply passionate about helping people with kidney disease and doing work that truly lights her up now as an online dietitian. Now, I brought her on because I believe there is so much that we can learn from another entrepreneur's journey. So get ready as we pull back the curtains and you'll hear the challenges that Jing faced in the beginning, the ups and downs she went through, and how she continues to learn from her mistakes, from the rejections she gets from potential clients on discovery calls, to growing as a dietitian, marketer, course creator, and business owner. So grab your cuppa, get comfortable, and let's dive into my conversation with Jing. Hey, welcome to the Nutrition Business Show podcast, Jing. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Charlene.
Wonderful. Now, I'm really excited to chat about your business a little bit more today. But before we dive in, Jing, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jing. I'm a registered dietitian based in Boston, Massachusetts. And I've been a dietitian for about 7 years now. And I'm originally from China. I came to the United States for undergrad studies in University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then I did my clinical rotations and master's in clinical nutrition at Boston University. And now I work with renal patients, so I'm specializing in chronic kidney disease. And I also work in a dialysis clinic locally.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Jing, I was looking back and it's been almost 6 months since you've been with us in the Momentum Club, and time certainly flies very quickly. I hope you're having fun as well.
Time definitely flies.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you first came to us, Jing, for help, back then you didn't have a business. It felt like a very distant memory, I'm sure, because you've done so much since. I'd love for our audience to hear a little bit more about the reason that led you wanting to start your online practice.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to share more about that. Like you mentioned, it feels like forever ago, but no, actually, I only started my LLC back in December, and I only had my first client in February. So it hasn't really been that long. It only feels like it's only been 6 months since I have been in business. So working in an outpatient clinical setting, I always knew that nutrition counseling is my thing, and I'm good at building good relationships with my patients, and I've helped a lot of my patients get results. So throughout my career as a registered dietitian here, I've always worked for big corporates, big companies, and there were times I wish I could have been just my own boss. I wanted to have my own private practice where I could just focus on helping my patients, and I always wanted to have that flexibility where I could, use my own approach and not having to worry about the responsibilities I didn't enjoy so much. I wanted to focus on quality and not so much with quantity of the patients I serve. Being someone who is a foreigner in the US, my family is still in China, so I wanted that flexibility to be able to travel back and forth between the US and China as much as I want. And last summer, one of my dietitian friends and I, we were just casually talking about what we wanted to do in our career. And we share with each other that having a private practice is our personal dream. And we both got very excited during our discussions. And we just started planning on starting a business together. And we started a weekly brainstorming session on top of our 40-hour full-time jobs. And we talk about a lot of things like our company name, the different populations we could serve, website idea, and we also research how to form a LLC in Massachusetts, what would be our business hours, what would be our pricing, what would be our business model, like all those kind of like fun things. And during the brainstorming process, I realized just like how much I wanted to do this. I got so excited every time I went into the brainstorming session, and even my husband told me that like he had never seen me like so passionate about work. But, unfortunately, due to my friend's personal reason, a few months later, she decided not to pursue forming an LLC with me at that time, and she wanted to wait. But I already reached a stage where I was just ready to go. I didn't want to, live in what if anymore. So I filed the LLC paperwork by myself. I still remember the day, it's December 8th. And then I looked into the Squarespace website on December 9th. It was like very memorable 2 days of my life. And I even talked with my husband about this, and he was very supportive. And we decided that it is okay, even if my company runs at a loss for the first 2 years. Like, because it's an online business, it's not going to be a lot of like expenses, like, unlike like an in-person clinic. And I still remember my husband said to me, because he knows me so well, he knows that knowing my personality and my ambition, if I want to do something, I will make sure I succeed.
Yeah, you had the drive and nothing could have stopped you.
Exactly, yeah. And it's something like if I'm already doing this when I'm a full-time worker, that means how much I want it, and I really want to succeed.
Yeah, I love that,
Yeah.
Jing. And look, I think anyone listening to this can relate as well. It's that passion in you where you've just got that drive. This is something that you really wanted to do. You will make it happen. And look at you, you spent your time outside of your full-time job in the evenings, I'm sure late into the night as well,
Yeah.
thinking, dreaming, and planning. And that just goes to show that you prioritize what was important to you at that stage. And what was important was pursuing these dreams of yours. So I'm so glad you went ahead to file the LLC, and look at how far you've come now.
Thank you, Charlene. And I'm so glad I found you as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad we found each other. Look, my job here is to help you shine, is to help you go out there and do your work to help more people. So I'm so excited to have you here today, because I really wanted to bring you on so our listeners can hear about your journey, because you literally started from scratch. Yes, you had an LLC when you came to us, but it was in the very, very early stages. And I want to talk about where you were at when you first came to me. Did you already have a niche? Because that is one of the biggest things that often stops people from moving forward, because they don't have a niche. They don't know who they want to help. So they feel like they need to spend that time, go and research and figure that out before they get the support to start and grow their business. So tell us where you were at when you came to us.
Yeah, like you mentioned, having a niche is so important. But before working with you, Charlene, I really didn't realize how important of having a niche is. So I don't know if you remember, but I went to your webinar, your masterclass, and I shared with you that I was always into like chronic disease management, but I wasn't really sure if I wanted to serve all people with chronic diseases or just like a very specific population. But like after joining the Momentum Club and after watching the course modules in the accelerator program, I decided to narrow down my niche into renal disease. It's something that I am always passionate about and I know I'm good at. And I've been working with CKD patients in all my jobs for the past 7 years. And I know the medical nutrition therapy for patients like with kidney disease is so individualized, which is something that I love. I never get bored. And also the research and the nutrition guidelines for kidney disease has just changed so much over the years. And I noticed that there's just so much outdated information and misinformation on the internet. Like even when I work in hospital jobs, the handouts we use were so outdated as well. And I noticed a lot of people with CKD, they follow very outdated and harmful advice So that's why I decided, okay, I wanted to bring my expertise online. I wanted to be able to serve people with CKD and give them the most accurate, most recent evidence-based information.
I love that. And I want to highlight that point for our listeners as well, because finding a niche is not a hard thing to do, but it can also be the biggest block for a lot of people. And we simply, for you, Jing, just dived into what you were really passionate about. And secondly, what you were really good at, and just came natural to you because you did that in your day job as well. So you very quickly found the need and the gap to fill in the market. And that was your frustration with seeing people getting outdated advice, following a very restrictive diet, and you decide to take matters into your own hands and start making that change. And so here's a tip for our listeners as well. If you're finding it hard to pick a niche, don't make it too hard for yourself. Just start by asking yourself this question: what am I really good at? What comes natural to me? Or another question you could ask yourself is, what have you helped other people achieve results in the past that really lights you up? You just go, yes, I'm so fulfilled. I really get that huge sense of fulfillment and helping that person solve that problem, and just start there. You got to start somewhere, and then you'll start to narrow things down as you go. And just like you have, Jing, you've definitely done so much work there, getting clear on your niche and your messaging when you started on Instagram. So I want to kind of shift gear a little bit and talk about Instagram marketing. It is kind of a scary space for a lot of newbies stepping into Instagram, especially if you haven't used social media a lot personally. So tell us where you're at when you first started using Instagram for your business and how you felt about that.
Yeah, like you mentioned, actually, like I was never a big social media person, so using Instagram was definitely like a big step for me. Like I did have a personal Instagram account, but I never utilized any of the features like reels, hashtags, stories, things like that. There's so many features up there that could be a little bit like confusing at first. And I felt like my content at first reached nobody before I had a very specific niche. And I felt I'm not gonna lie, I did feel like really discouraged back in January, but after I niched down, thanks to the lessons I watched, like your lessons, Charlene, I noticed a difference in the reach and the engagement in my Instagram account. And I remember how I felt when I got the very first message in my DM from someone with kidney disease. And I was so happy. And at that moment, I felt that whatever messaging I was delivering on my page was seen and heard. And Charlene, I know that one thing you mention all the time is that the messaging is the key for whatever content you're posting. And that's so true. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's quality content over quantity, and it's really about nailing that messaging so it gets to the right person. You could have 1,000 followers, but if they're not relevant to your niche, then you're speaking to no one really. But if you get specific and you get that 10, 100 people land on your page, your ideal clients, they become your biggest fan of what you do. And that is when you get that win. You get people reaching out to you saying how your content has changed them, even with your free content that you're putting out has really helped them. It just blows them away to what they can get access to when they become a paying client.
Yeah, definitely. I had like people messaging me all the time saying how much they enjoy my content. And that's after they follow me for a while, that's when I'm interested in your program. So it definitely takes some time to nurture them and for them to see like how much value you can provide to them outside of your Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw that it took time as well. So I want to give people an idea of what it takes to get your first client. And, I think there's a lot of misconception out there with people selling Instagram program, teaching you what to do and stuff, and then saying, oh, you're going to get your first client within a day or 2 days or something. It doesn't happen immediately. So let's talk about what you had to do to get your first client and then what happened afterwards.
Yeah. So my very first clients were actually like doctor's referrals, but I only got my first client from Instagram in April. So actually, I only started like posting specific to my niche early February. So it did take about more than 2 months for me to get the very first client from social media. It definitely took time for them to get familiar with you and actually have confidence in you and trust you. because social media is a very overwhelming space. And sometimes it just takes time for them to have that like trust factor in you. They're not going to buy your program the first day they follow you.
Yeah, so let's put it out there straight. It's not going to happen overnight. It does take time, but it takes a lot of refinement as well, and you wouldn't learn without putting out content. And I remember the early days, Jing, you're always like asking for feedback. You're posting on our client channel, asking for feedback on your Instagram content. When you would get a discovery call and didn't go as planned, you would then pop in and ask for feedback. And that's what I love about you, that you're always willing to improve. You're always open to learning and taking on feedback. And that is one of the most important characteristic or personality trait that we see successful entrepreneurs have, is that you're open to learning. Because sometimes we get so caught up in perfectionism that we don't want to put out anything until it's 100,000,000% perfect. And so we miss out on so many opportunities as a result. But you just started putting out content and learning from that experience.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. I think that's exactly why I invested in your program. If I didn't come to you for help, like what was the whole point for me to be in the Momentum Club? Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're willing to learn and improve as well. You looked at the numbers, which is something that we really like when you ask for feedback. You share with us your analytics and say, how can I improve on this? So that's wonderful that you did that. So I just wanted to highlight the willingness to learn in you. That is such a good personality trait. Now, the next question is, Jing, you're welcome. The next question is, when we started working together, and one of the first few things that we did together was to create an offer. So once we started building your presence on Instagram, we needed to create something for you to sell. And that was before we started creating your online course as well. So we need to validate and test this framework of yours so you know what to put in your online course. So tell us about what happened. Obviously, you got your first client, you mentioned, from the doctor's referral, but you still needed to do a discovery call as well. So how did you go with that?
I practiced a lot before my first discovery call. So you had a very good video. You had 2 video lessons in your course modules that kind of teach us how to do discovery calls. So I studied your video lessons quite a few times, and I took notes and I practiced by myself. And I always believe that the more I practice, the more confident I can get. A doctor's referral, she was a cold lead. Like, she never saw my Instagram page before. She never knew me before. But I actually converted her with the discovery call in February, and I was so proud of myself. And we're still working together in our 6-month package right now.
Yeah. Well, you should be very proud of yourself, especially converting a cold lead who had not met you before, knew nothing about you, and that person came through your doctor's referral. So that's amazing. Now, I want to chat a little bit more about some of the common objections people have, because I feel like this is something that you have definitely navigated throughout the whole program. You've learned how to accept no's and work with people to try and turn them into a yes over time. So tell us about some of the common objections that people say to you on a discovery call.
The common objections would be, actually one common objection is, oh, maybe I will find someone in my insurance network first. Or it was like, maybe I would do this after I move. People are always going to have some reasons to postpone prioritizing their health. But honestly, Charlene, one thing that I really like about what you said is that you said to me, just because they say no right now doesn't mean they won't come back in the future. I already had 3 clients who said no to me after a discovery call are now my current clients. They came back to me like a month or 2 months later. Yeah, so it's really about, I feel like when it comes to, you always mention that like in a discovery call, the key is to make sure you answer all your potential clients' questions well during the call and do your best to help them navigate a solution for their health. Think about it from an angle of helping them. And then after the call, separate yourself from the situation. And I kept that in mind every time I did my discovery call. Like at first, I know that I navigated the rejections by talking to you and your team. And because I had always been like a person who set very high standards for myself, and I always wanted to refine my process for everything I do in my business. But you always give me good advice, but you always also reassure me that sometimes it's not me, it's because they're not ready. So that's something that I feel like it's such a mindset shift for me.
Yeah, and I want to highlight what you said there about detaching yourself from the outcome. So often we attach our self-worth to our business, to the sales call. We're so desperate for someone to say yes because we want to be validated. We want people to say yes to what we have. Otherwise, we're going to feel like we're not good enough. Is it because they don't like me? We start creating all these stories in our head about the reasons why someone said no. And I remember clearly this conversation that we had at group coaching as well, Jing, where you were wondering what went wrong. And I just said to you, it's probably not you. It's probably because of what they're going through right now. And I think one person back then, you said to me they were moving states or moving somewhere. So there was a lot going on. And then you've got people who were maybe had elderly parents with a renal disease, and it was the adult kids that were on the phones and needed to have that conversation with the parent who didn't know who you were. So there are so many factors at play. And that's one thing that I want our listeners to really take away from this, is that when someone says no to you on a discovery call, it doesn't mean that they're rejecting you. It doesn't mean they're rejecting your program. It could be a multitude of reasons behind that. So really come from a place of curiosity and get to understand why they said no to you. Is it because they don't quite see the value of your program just yet? So you need to do some work around explaining and conveying the value of your program on the call? Or is it because they haven't gone to make the mistakes or struggled enough to see that they need that help yet? Start to understand these problems or barriers in a sense and learn how to navigate that. And for Jing, you've learned some of the common rejections or objections that people have, and now you know how to answer them. If someone is showing some signs of hesitance, you know how to respond to that on the call. So it definitely takes a lot of practice, and I'm glad that you just kept persisting. You kept learning, and I love how you said you studied the training videos.
Yes.
You're very diligent.
I think like at first, like with a discovery call, right? Like you never know what kind of questions to ask. So having those training videos from you, Charlene, was a very big help. Because I think like for everybody out there, like if they're only like they just started doing this, they don't really know what question to ask in a discovery call. Yeah.
For sure. And sales is something that is so far from what we know as health professionals. We are so centered around clinical care for our clients, giving them the best, but we don't know how to sell ourselves. And so this is something I would say you definitely want to spend some time upskilling in. If you don't know how to sell yourself, you don't know how to market your business, get the help and guidance to help you get confident around that. Because running a successful business, you need to learn how to sell. If not, no one's going to know about the amazing skill set or the amazing program that you have, right? Thank you for sharing that, Jing. I'm so glad we had a conversation around that, because I'm sure a lot of people right now are getting concerned about the economy. They're hearing no's on sales call and they're finding it harder to sell. Yeah, sure, the economy may be a little bit unstable at the moment, but it doesn't mean no one's buying. We'll take your niche, for example, Jing, like it doesn't come to an end. There's so many people out there with renal disease, and lots of people out there looking for help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like you have to like believe that you're the expert in your industry. If you don't believe that your expertise can help people, like nobody's going to buy.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful advice. Amazing. Now, Jing, you're launching your hybrid program right now. And for those people who don't know what a hybrid program is, it's basically the step after we've created our signature package, working with clients through one-on-one consults and validating the framework, which is the step-by-step process you have for working with clients. The next step is then going to create a hybrid program, which is basically a combination of an online course that you create, which packages all the good stuff, all your knowledge into a course to help your clients. And then you add in support, whether it's group coaching or one-on-one coaching to your clients. So you're creating the course itself right now, and you're launching that as we speak. So it is a big step. But what I want to say here is a lot of people, again, get so into the idea of creating a digital course. So they expect to get there right away. But it's taken you about 5 months, I think, when you started creating a course. But before you even launch your course, you've already made some good money to validate your program idea. So it's what I call monetizing as you're going. So if you don't mind, Jing, can you share with our listeners how many clients have you got so far and roughly how much you've made, if you're comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, so I still remember I was only making like a 3-digit revenue month at the beginning. It was back in January, February when I only had like single session clients. And then after I started selling my 6 months package, which was before the hybrid, that was when I started seeing like the 4-digit like revenue months. And I've been working with 8 clients in my 6 months package. And like I mentioned earlier, I got some revenue earlier this year from a few single sessions and a 3-month package client. And now that I have my hybrid program, I've been working with 5 clients in my new and improved 4-month hybrid program. And I'm very happy with my caseload as I actually, I had to reduce my clinic job hours to accommodate my private practice schedule and all the work I need to do for my business.
That is a big win, Jing. Yes, we haven't quit our full-time job. We haven't gotten to that stage yet, but you've already started reducing your hours.
Yes.
And that's one thing that a lot of people concerned about. They're like, I don't want to take that big leap and quit my full-time job to start this nutrition business online. And you don't have to. Like what, Jing, you've done, you've created your package and you're validating that as you go whilst working a full-time job. And it's only recently when you started cutting down your hours to 32 hours a week. And so
Yes.
that is already a big milestone win. So I'm so proud of how far you've come and
Thank you.
being able to be in a position to reduce your hours in your full-time job as well. So that's a huge step.
Yes, it is. I feel so much happier after I reduced my hours. I felt like I could finally just focus on one thing in like one weekday. Yeah, instead of
That's
multitasking.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and growing your passion when it's something that you really enjoy doing, it doesn't feel so much like a chore or a chore going to
No.
work, basically.
Yeah.
No.
My husband always said, you're always like happily moving from one work to another every day.
I hope you're still finding time to spend with your hubby as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do go out on the weekends. It's just like sometimes like I have so many like ideas. I'm always thinking about my business, Charlene. I think like I definitely make the right decision last year to start my business because the more I do it, the more passionate I become and the less I want to give up. I want to do this for life.
Yeah, well done. And look, it's not a bad thing that you're thinking about your business all the time. I put
Right.
out memes and giffies all the time about this, and there's no shame in this. I think when we're so passionate about what we do, we love our job, it's genuinely coming from that place of
Yeah.
enjoyment, and you just keep going to it. You keep thinking of new ideas of how you can help people. And that is an entrepreneur's brain. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, Jing, just to give people some insight into the way that you're working with clients now within the package and also in your hybrid program as well, how does that feel to you? Because you're still obviously working in your day job, being a renal dietitian in the
Yeah.
dialysis center. What difference is it and what can people expect to see when they start to work with clients online?
I think in short, the biggest difference is quality over quantity. So I think as dietitians, we all know the value of long-term follow-ups. And when you're only doing like single sessions with clients, which is like the very traditional model of outpatient practice, it's hard to get clients long-term results because you're just not able to provide them the long-term continuous follow-ups and help them tackle any challenges they face, like between your sessions. And I really like what I'm doing now because I'm able to get to my clients really well. I'm working with them for a minimum of 4 months. And you really can get to know your clients well through one single session. I'm still learning something new about my clients every single day. And you can only do that if you work together continuously. And it does take time. Like even though for a lot of my clients, like they buy my programs, trusting me enough, but it still takes time for them to fully open up to you. And it takes more than just one single session.
Yeah, and you're helping them change the lifestyle. You're diving deep into how they live their life, what they cook, what they eat, the symptoms they're experiencing, and sometimes it can be a very private area like fertility or gut issues. And so it takes time. And now you have the luxury of time to invest into helping your clients by educating them, by setting goals as well, which helps you to build that collaborative relationship. Because I think in our traditional dietetic training, and no offense to anyone listening here who's an academic, in a consult, you are taught to educate, you set goals together, and then off they go. And the client is then left on their own. They might come back 2 weeks later, a month later, if they cancel and fell sick, reasons come up, and we lose that momentum. And so for me, what I found in my own practice working with clients with gut issues is that what happens in between when they walk away from the session is so important. It's probably more important than what you teach them at the consult, because it's the execution where most people struggle. And they may have been educated in the past about how to follow a renal diet, cutting out potassium and all of those things, but they're often stuck with the how to. And that is where your program is that difference. It helps them with implementation. So tell us a little bit about how your program's structured right now in the hybrid model to help your clients.
Yes. So right now for my hybrid program, I'm still doing the one-on-one. So we have monthly coaching sessions. It's 60 to 75 minutes long each session. So we really do like deep dive into their concerns, their health status, and any issues they have with their kidney health. And between the coaching sessions, they will have access to my course modules. So they will get a weekly video lessons delivered to them, focus on one topic at a time. And it's 8 to 12 minutes long with some deliverables for them to download and to execute the action steps. And they also have unlimited messaging support from me on their client portal. So anytime they have any small or big questions, they can reach me. Yeah, so it's really like a complete support.
Yeah. And it's so supportive because they get to really invest the time with you in your 60 to 75 minute session to troubleshoot, and you can really personalize what you teach in your program to their unique situation. And this way, this model of practicing, this hybrid approach model, it's very different to what most people typically think of when they are taught to create an online course. Because an online course can be self-paced, where the person, your student who purchases your course, is then left to their own devices to execute that. And if they get stuck, they may have access to a community to ask questions, but it's so different to what you've implemented, which is the hybrid approach, where you get to support them on a deep level, and your clients are joining your program with the deep reassurance that you're there with them, holding their hands every step of the way, and they're not going to get stuck and have to struggle on their own. And that is so different to how we teach creating online courses and programs inside Momentum. And I love that, Jing, you really stuck through with the process as well. You have a full-time job in the past, so it's very challenging to find time to work on your business, but you did because you were really passionate. So for someone who's listening to this, Jing, they may be at the start of the journey. It's overwhelming thinking about having to find a business name, register the LLC, set up the online system. There is so much to do. And so for someone who is perhaps working a full-time job, maybe they have kids and so they don't have a lot of time, what advice would you have for them at the start of the journey?
Yeah, I guess the number one advice I would give to people who are like at the start of their journey is not be afraid to have an imperfect start. Just start. I didn't really expect myself to do everything perfectly on Instagram. I didn't even know what Instagram Reels are until January this year, until I watched your lessons, Charlene. And I try my best to like just stay open-minded, to learn the different Instagram features by watching your lessons. And I just try out different things, like one thing at a time. I try out Reels, and then I went live, I posted stories, I did hashtags. So all those were new to me. But honestly, I only had like 40 followers at the beginning of this year, and they were all my friends and family. So I didn't really mind embarrassing myself, even if I did something wrong. And at first, you're not going to have a big follower base, like from your ideal clientele. So that's the time for you to try things out, not be afraid to just start. And the most important thing is that you just want to give it a try. You don't want to wait until you have everything figured out. And now I've already gone live so many times on Instagram, and there are still moments where I was like watching my own replays and I don't like the way I talk, or I don't like the way I answer questions during live. And I think that's totally okay, because it's important to accept that you just won't be able to do everything perfectly. But if you do it consistently, you will get better, and you're already so much better than so many people out there, because people tend to give up really easily. And you will just get more comfortable over time, and you will require less prep time for everything you do on social media. And you will also notice that your audience will get more comfortable with you and engage with you more and more on social media. And one other thing I want to share, with the Instagram side of things, is that it's important to be authentic on social media. You don't want to be like someone else in your niche. So you want to share about the things that you truly care about, and you want to share the true reason why you want to help people. Like, one thing that I hear a lot on discovery calls is that I was always told that the reason they jump on the call with me is because I seem that I care about my clients a lot based on the content I share on Instagram and how I present myself. And that always makes me so happy, because I genuinely care a lot about my clients. So your audience will learn your personality and style over time if you show your authentic self.
Such a great piece of advice, Jing. Just showing up, being yourself, because you can't fake your personality. Or maybe you can, but people will see through that. And when you come from a genuine place of service, that you're showing up to serve, to help people, they will sense that. And the greatest compliment I feel for me as well is that when someone jumps on a call, they say, you're just like the person that I've been seeing on Instagram. I've followed you for years, and you're just like that person. And that is a great compliment, because it just shows that we are who we are, and people are comfortable with that. And one thing you mentioned about how, people need to take time to build trust with you. Trust takes time to build. And for most people, when they meet someone on the internet, they might follow you. It's distant. And a lot of people are shy. They don't go openly comment that they've got kidney issues or gut issues from pooing and things like that in your comments. So don't feel discouraged if people are not engaging in the comments right away. They take time to warm up to you. And perhaps if you're in a niche where it's an embarrassing or very private condition, maybe encourage them to DM you or to pop a comment in your stories instead, so you can start a conversation more privately rather than showing the problems that they're experiencing to the rest of the world, because that can be a bit daunting as well.
Yes, like you mentioned, it definitely, like, sometimes people just don't feel comfortable like commenting under your posts or in your lives, but they prefer DMing you. And that's totally okay.
That's fine. And the whole point is to start a conversation, get to know them, get to hear the problems that they're experiencing, so you can think about how you can help them and serve them in the beginning. They may not be ready to buy. That's okay. But share with them maybe a post that you've done that kind of answers the question of what they're struggling with, or you may have done a live training that you've reshared as a reel or a post, and you can share the link with them. And that is still providing value and helping someone without getting too personal with your advice, of course. Now, Jing, you went live a few times. In the beginning, It was absolutely not easy. We had some conversations around how to prepare for your live and things like that. Do you have any advice for our listeners who hasn't done a live before? Maybe they haven't even gone on to stories, and so it's super daunting. What advice do you have for them about showing up on camera and going live?
As mentioned before, my advice is just start. Just do it. Don't be afraid to have an imperfect start. My first live was with a colleague who also was in the Momentum Club. Like, she was a type 2 diabetes dietitian. And I still remember our first live. The internet connection on both ends was just not good. But it's okay. It's okay.
It has to happen on that day.
It just has to happen on that day. And then, like, my husband, he was watching the live as well. And then he told me afterwards, wow, you both didn't sound clearly.
He was
But it's okay.
being very
Yeah.
gentle with his feedback.
Yeah. And then I watched the replay. Oh, yeah, he's right. But if you don't start, you're not going to know what the problem will be. You just have to do it once and then troubleshoot. Because you can do all the prep, but issues are still going to happen if you're doing it the first time.
That's it. And we
Yeah.
just got to roll with the punches, isn't it? Whatever tech or life throws at you, just know that you can deal with it. And it's okay. If the life was absolutely crappy, which I don't think will happen, because I believe that all of you are going to be prepared with some notes and go on and share what you want
Yeah.
to share, and that would be helpful for people. But if it's terrible, you don't have to post it. It's okay. You can
Exactly.
just go on and do another live next week, and no one would know that it was a crappy live, except those people who went on to watch. But look, people are very understanding. They are there for the value. They're there to learn from you. If not, they wouldn't be following you. So you got to remember this. Everything that you do, you're coming from a place of service, and that's what matters. It doesn't have to be the perfect sound quality. It doesn't have to be the perfect backdrop. It doesn't have to be perfectly scripted, because people value the authenticity. So when they sense that you're coming from a place of genuine care and service, you're there to help them, answer their questions, and teach. They learn something from you. And that's going to leave a deep impression, because they'll keep coming back for more. They're like, oh, she's going live again. I remember that dietitian. She was really helpful in the last live. I'm going to come on and listen. And the more you do it, people are going to get braver. They will start to engage more. They will drop a comment. They might even ask a question the next time. And sometimes I do put my followers or my Instagram audience on the spot as well, and see if anyone wants to go live and chat to me, because I love that. It creates that real-time connection. So, you just got to start small, and then as you go along, you can get more fancy and add more bells and whistles.
Yeah, you're so right. Consistency is the key. Like, it's going to take time for your audience to be braver, to engage with you during live.
Yeah, great. So 2 more questions, Jing. Now, I want to hear what you did to prioritize your time, because I'm sure a lot of people here are very busy doing other things in life, in their other day jobs. So how did you go about finding time in the evenings or on the weekends to work on what matters?
Yeah. So what I do is that on the weekdays, after I come home from my day job, I would just do my Instagram posting or content planning. And that really just takes about half an hour or less. Because like now that I've already had so much content on my Instagram, a lot of content I can repurpose. And I just don't really spend that much time on making sure my hair is in the right place anymore. I'm not really in that mindset anymore. Like, I'm more about making sure that I get a good messaging across. And then I would just prep dinner and eat, have some time with my husband. And then after dinner in the evenings, I would see clients or do discovery calls. And on the weekends, I will work on the bigger projects, such as course creation, which I'm all done now, webinar prep, which I'm all done now as well. So I was really busy the past couple of weeks as I was doing my webinar launch. So before my launch, that was the time when I decided, okay, it's time to cut my hours to 32 in my clinic job, because I didn't want to feel overwhelmed. And I think the big reason I stay so consistent is because I never ever saw my online business as my side hustle. I started my business because I wanted to do this for life. I've always been this way. If something is very important to me, I take the time to do it and I make it happen.
I love that mindset. Can you say it again? So when you started your business?
When I started my business, I never saw this as my side hustle. Even though that was what I told people, that was never how I felt.
So you just went all in.
I went all in. I felt like if I'm doing this as I'm doing my full-time job, this is important enough to me for me to start. And if it's something that's important to me, it's not a side hustle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make it your main gig and put your time, your attention and dedication to it. And I think that is probably one of the biggest shift that our listeners can take away from this. You don't want to go into a business, building it to go, oh, I'll see how it goes. I'll just test the waters, put
Right.
some time into it. I'll post when I get time. I'll go create a lead magnet when I get time. I'll go create this program when I get time. No, there is a dedication to the process. And what I love about you, Jing, is you just stuck to the process, right? We've done all the work in Momentum Club in defining this step-by-step process for our clients. And it's not an easy path, right? If it was easy, everyone will be doing this already and making millions online. No, building a business is for the people who are dedicated to a bigger why than just making money. You're not here just to make money. You want to help people. And I think that is the biggest driver that kept you going. And
Yes.
like I said, you stuck to the process and you just followed everything step by step. When things didn't go right, which a lot of times it has, tech and all sorts of things, you would just stick your hand up, ask for help. You learn from that and then you kept going. And that is why you're still here today, sticking out with the process, doing amazingly well, helping people transform their kidney health and improving their quality of life as well, which is such a big driver, I think, of your private practice journey. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jing, you have been so incredibly generous in sharing, opening up, sharing about your business, taking people behind the scenes and seeing what it's like for someone starting a practice from scratch. And I wanted to bring you on because you're someone who just really demonstrated all the perseverance, the skill set, the personality that makes a successful entrepreneur. And you didn't know a thing about Instagram marketing. You didn't know a thing about sales. You just knew how to help people. And you brought that with you and you just committed to the process. So thank you so much for your generosity in sharing
Thank you
this.
so much, Charlie.
Now, before we go, just a quick question that I ask everyone. So what is the one piece of advice that you want to share with our listeners for someone who is wanting to build their online business and they are wondering if it's worth it, or they're wondering if they are going to get results from this as well? What advice do you have for them?
I think in order to stop the wandering, in order to stop the guesswork, it's important to get a mentor from the start. That's exactly why I work with you, Charlene. I took my business really seriously and I didn't want to waste time going through a lot of trial and error and not sure what I'm doing right or wrong. I want to be able to get help. And being a full-time salary worker while starting a business, I know my time is the most valuable asset to me. And I had no time to waste. And that's why I joined the Momentum Club.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Why waste time making all the mistakes when someone has already made the mistake? I have made so many mistakes in the beginning. And that's why I've put together our programs to serve people at different stages. So we've got the accelerator for someone who's very new to the online space or even to clinical practice, and you want to learn how to build your side hustle. And Jing, you wanted to just go all in, create a program, make this your full-time gig, and I'm sure you'll be hitting your 5-figure months in no time. So thank you so much. Yeah, that's the goal, and it will happen very soon. Now, how can our listeners connect with you, Jing, if they wanted to ask you questions about your experience starting a practice or working with us in Momentum?
You can find me on Instagram. My handle is kidney.dietitian.jing.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure to link that in the show notes as well. And for our listeners, if you have any other questions about what it's really like starting a practice, talk to the people who are doing it. So go ahead and connect with Jing. She's incredibly generous with her wisdom and time and experience. I'm sure she'll be happy to chat. So thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope that it's helpful for you, giving you the dose of inspiration that you need, or just giving you that reassurance that, yeah, building a business is not easy, but you've got it. Jing has done it. We've got hundreds of other clients in our program who are doing it as well. Go and shine your light and help people and believe in yourself. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys back here, same time, same place next week.